wanted to create something, and I think that's why I wasn't really feeling fulfilled. My dad kind of started a business, and I've always wanted to make something.
Do you feel like you knew enough about it? Because sometimes, you know what it's like in business, even though you see the opportunity, the further you get in, the more you realise how little you know.
So we've learned that it was a lot harder. Like setting up a manufacturing business is a lot harder than what it sounds like.
How much do you think like having a background in market research has helped? Because you're talking a lot here, there's a lot of research, a lot of development going on.
That's a really, really good question. And the battery industry is it's on a teetering point right now.
Where do you see the future for the business going over the next few years?
China's ahead. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Do you think like Europe and the UK can like, really compete with China?
Okay, we're doing something right. If we're able to export from our cost base in the UK to a company in China, and they're actually one of the world's biggest battery producers in China, we must be on the right track.
The Metal Guys Talk Business podcast is brought to you by Compton Group, a specialist recruitment agency working in the metal, manufacturing and engineering sectors. Hey guys, Pete and Mike.
The Metal Guys.
We're joined on the pod today by Kieren, CEO of Avocet Materials Group, as I've just been told. That is the name of the official
That's
one.
it.
Can you give us a little, because you're CEO of this business, you're young, so immediately people are like, well, how the blue hell did you get this job? So talk to us about how you got into the industry and specifically in this business.
Yeah, so my dad set up Avocet Steel back in '96, and that was basically a steel trading business, almost like a lifestyle business, really. So he was trading materials, he was doing jobs on commission, mostly on mild steel and carbon steel. I joined in 2012. Basically, I was doing some market research before that, working for a company in a place called Bollington. Completely unfulfilled. And then my dad basically said, hey, do you want to come and join the company? And I didn't honestly know, like, what I was going to be doing in the company. Like, he said, do you want to just come? And I just knew my dad worked in metals, but I didn't really know what it was. It was really obvious when I got into the job, right? This is a sales role, right? He didn't tell me it was sales. This is a sales role. So I started that in 2012. I remember my first training, we went to see one customer in the first week. And then the next week, I was out on my own visiting customers with not really too much knowledge on the products. Just like let loose, like go and sell these products, modern carbon steel, go and sell it. And it was like literally in at the deep end, like sink or swim. You know, learn how to talk to customers very, very quickly. So we did that, and then we got to the point. It was that sort of lifestyle business where, like, you know, we could like finish early on a Friday. Sometimes not work Fridays. Augusts don't really need to work August because a lot of the European mills shut down.
What did the business look like in 2012 when you started? Then was it just
There
you
was
and
me,
your
my dad, and one other person. Yeah.
Who was the other one?
A lady called Kirsty, who retired in 2019. She retired, but I kind of felt pretty unfulfilled. By the time we got to 2018, before COVID, I got to the point where I was like, well, I can do the job, no problem. My dad was starting to take a step backwards. Like what was I really going to do with my life? I didn't really feel like totally fulfilled in what I was doing. You know, yes, like my lifestyle was nice. You know, hours were good, got to travel, pay was all right. But I didn't like have that feeling of like progression or like, you know, is this really like what my career is going to be like?
And how old was you at this stage?
So 7 years ago, so just turned 30.
So what did you join? Because, you know, like when you look at your dad, he's got this lifestyle business. He's obviously done all right. I'm making a presumption here, but
Yeah.
done all right. You've got your own career going on. Your dad says, I'll come and do this. Like, why did you...
Why did I?
Yeah, why did you do it? And why like, you know, for those 6 years where you kind of just going through the motion of it, what made you kind of just want to go along? Because that's still quite a long time, isn't it, to be doing like almost not knowing when you feel unfilled to keep
definitely,
going through
yes.
it.
I knew the career I was doing at the time definitely wasn't for me. I've always wanted to do something, like build something, create something. I've always been pretty ambitious. So then when I was like, do you want to come work for us, family business? I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go and do it. Let's see like what we can do together. And we recognized, so the real opportunity that I had, the reason why I joined actually, my dad won a new agency contract with an American company. So I was brought in basically to lead that side of the business. And I did that, got some of the guys, we still work with that company today, and it's still part of our mantra. We do develop long-term partnerships with our customers and suppliers. So we still work with them today. And I wanted to create something. And I think that's why I wasn't really feeling like fulfilled. My dad had kind of started a business, and I've always wanted to make something. Like being a distributor, you're always reliant on someone else's products, right? Whether you succeed or fail, like you're only really as strong as your supply partners. I've always wanted actually to make our own products in house. It was very difficult to get the opportunity to go from a distribution into manufacturing is actually a big step. In distribution or working as a sales rep, you worry on the sales side, on that customer delivery side. The actual delivery of the product, you're not too worried about. It just turns up and you're selling it to a customer. So when you're making a product, you then have to learn all the skills beforehand. They go into all the operational skills, manufacturing skills, all the quality requirements. You have to learn that in house. So back in 2018, we did not have those skills in house. And then what happened was, one of the products that we were selling was copper foil, and we still sell that today. We're actually definitely the UK's largest distributor of copper foil for battery applications. I think also in Europe for battery applications. We recognized that there was one product that we were distributing that actually there was no one making it in Europe. There's no one making it in the United States. The product looked pretty simple to make, and I'll go on to that in a bit. But we had this opportunity. Why can't we set up and start making this product ourselves? And what we did was we engaged with an organization called Innovate UK. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they're a super organization. Basically, they will support companies in certain, I guess, high growth sectors. So the battery industry is one area where they want to promote UK manufacturing, UK R&D, because they see the battery industry as being critical to protect the UK automotive industry. So we were obviously chatting about automotive before. Obviously, when there's that transition from internal combustion engine to EV, what's going to happen to all the supply chain, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers who are developing components for the internal combustion engine, or what's going to happen when you can no longer sell those cars in this country and in Europe and the United States? What's going to happen to those companies? So they believe the battery industry is key to protecting all those jobs. So we put a grant application in 2020, and I think that's why COVID for us, we spoke about before, COVID for us was actually a really blessing because it allowed us to stop, pause, and go, right, what do we want to do with our business? Do we want to carry on what we're doing? And we're still very, very good at our distribution and our sales agency work, but we can also explore this manufacturing side. So we secured a grant in 2020, which are really competitive grants. They're competitions. So you're writing a business plan and you're putting together a pitch to Innovate UK to say, we want to do this. Can you support us? And we did that with a consortium, and we were successful. So when we secured that grant, we had a bit of an oh shit moment, right? We're like, we've just secured a grant, and it was a £1.4 million project cost. We need to fund 50% of that. Now, it's a small business. 50% of that is an awful lot of money for us to invest, right? And we didn't have that money. So how the fuck are we going to do this, right? So we then engaged with people who basically have raised investment before, because raising investment is a skill in itself. I don't know if you guys have ever gone down that route of raising investment. It's kind of similar to what you see on Dragon's Den. Just I would say, So 1 in 1,000 pitches gets investment, right? Those are the stats. So 1 in 1,000. So you're going to get 999 no's before you get a yes. So you've got to have that drive and determination to do it. You've also got to have the right business plan. You also need to have the right team behind you. So we basically had to learn very quickly how to talk to investors, how to develop a proper business plan, how to develop a vision.
How did you do that? Did you use consultancy or did you?
So Innovate UK supported us. So we were on it's almost like a catapult scheme where they I think there was maybe like 10 companies involved in who they chose. I handpicked to basically be supported through their investment journey. And then we also engaged with one of our directors' cousins, and he's a bit of a serial entrepreneur. He runs a company called The Change, who are really good, and they're all about how they can change industries. They're basically an impact investor. We engaged with him, and he backed us from day one, and he helped us refine our business plan, helped us basically show that like this is how you talk to investors, this is how you package up, let's say a pitch, because essentially what you're doing when you raise an investment is you're raising investment off a PowerPoint presentation, an Excel spreadsheet, and people. So you need that team. We're not raising investment on something that already exists. This is a startup. So when people always ask like, what is Avocet Materials Group? We're basically a quasi startup. We've got our sales and distribution business, which started in '96, which is still extremely strong today. And then we've got this startup we started in 2020, which is a manufacturing and R&D business, which is totally different to distribution and sales. So when we got the grant, we had to learn how to pitch, and we did shitloads of pitches. And it was a really interesting time for me because prior to COVID, I had quite a big fear of public speaking. So when you are pitching, you're pitching to either a room of people or to maybe a handful of people, but you can't be like nervous. You can't grind down to a halt when you're talking to people. Now, COVID really helped me because it allowed me to practice pitches in a safe environment, i.e., because everyone's working at home, no one's meeting in person. It allowed me to practice pitching with no pressure of going to see someone in person to do it, but do it on a computer screen in my bedroom.
Almost a bit of luck.
Total. I honestly think like, how would I have gotten over that? Like without having, because you think about it, if I'd done 1,000 pitches on a laptop, when it came to do it in person, well, I've said it 1,000 times.
Still nerve wracking, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think,
which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I think you still like, I still definitely feel like some nerves I do into politics. It's not gone away, but it doesn't stop me doing it. Whereas before, I think it would have stopped me. So COVID was really good to get me through that period where there's no pressure to go and see people in person. I've got can just practice in front of my laptop. To the point where when it came to talking in person, I was absolutely fine. And that's helped me in my role today because being the CEO of the company, I do public speaking almost every day now. You can't not be good at talking to people in this role. So that helped.
Because what did the business look like in 2020 then when COVID's going on? You've got this grant. But like when you talk about the team,
yeah,
how many people are we talking at this
So
time?
in 2020, we furloughed Kirsten, who was with us, who retired in 2021. It was me and my brother-in-law Ryan at that point. So Ryan came to work with us in 2016. So as our sales and distribution business grew, we added Ryan into the team. He's now our chief commercial officer of the group of companies. During COVID, it was just us two full time. So it was us two. Basically, he continued with the sales because some of our customers, I don't remember, but some of our customers closed at some points. They didn't really know themselves what's going on. Kind of purchasing stopped. You're not really doing outbound sales at that point. It didn't feel appropriate to do outbound sales calls during COVID. People were dying on the streets. Like buying materials didn't feel like a priority for a lot of our customers. So we really relied on a lot of inbound stuff at that point. And it allowed me to go ahead and do all the business prep for Avocet Battery Materials that we started in 2020, or we founded in 2020. that allowed us to stop, pause. Ryan handled the sales side predominantly, and I would work on the getting the new business off the ground.
Because what were you trying to build there? Because you were saying like you got this quasi business, so you've got your sales distribution. Because when we were chatting on the phone before you came, it was hilarious because I was listening. I was like, you started at 25 with your dad. It was like the same for me. But dad was like, look, Pete, can you come and work with me? It was like so many similarities. And then also the feeling I was working with my dad and I was like, I'm just rubbish. I don't know jack about. He's smashing it and just making money for fun. We're sat in the pub. It was so similar. So getting to this point where you're then going to flip it and actually effectively do a proper job, not just kind of off your dad's coattails and just take it on a bit. Like, what was the setup? Because I'm listening to it. Was there just literally a couple of you to trade in? Because if you're then going to try and build this current business, how did you want it to look? That's the kind of bit I'm like, so do you need an ops person? What's that going to
Yes.
look like? I need a scientist or a technical specialist. Like, what do you know about that? How are you kind of building your plan to look forward and go, right, I can see a sector, I can get some money, but how are you going to strategize building your
The
team?
team, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was honestly getting the right people in is absolutely like the key to it. So when we secured our grant, we made one hire in particular, which is our ops director. So we hired a guy, Andy, who's basically set up factories all over the world. We needed that expertise within our team. So we hired him. He believed in our vision. But essentially, we grew from there. So we went from ops. We then hired our R&D leads. So the same as just a material scientist. And Martin's now our R&D lead. He sits on the Faraday Institute as well now. And we went from in 2020, the two of us, we then moved to a new location in November 2021. At that point, there was, I think, 5 of us. We hired on the steel side, Callum, who's now our sales manager, and he's really driving our distribution and then sales business forward now. So we moved into this site, we moved from basically a small office, probably the size of this room, just to 2 of us. We just subcontract all our warehousing. It was a sales office. We moved to an brand new empty facility. Polished concrete on the warehouse floor, basically nothing in it, just an empty office upstairs and an empty factory, which was really intimidating when you first move in. It was like, bloody hell, like we've just gone from a tiny office to now quite a big manufacturing facility for us at that point.
What year was that, mate?
2021, November
2021,
21, yeah. The investment still hadn't landed at that point. Fortunately, the investment landed in the December of the 2021. And we basically set about creating a manufacturing business, and it was based, and it still is based around the battery industry. So we could see that there's basically this big demand of batteries coming, and all these in 2019, 2020, like the battery industry was like a boom. It was like an industry boom. There was startups every 5 minutes. If you go onto LinkedIn, another announced battery, we're building here, we're building that, we're building that. It was crazy. So it was like, wow, like there was just a lot of money being poured into batteries in 2020, and we were part of that.
Did you feel like you knew enough about it? Because sometimes, you know what it's like in business, even though you see the opportunity, the further you get in, the more you realise how little you know. And was that a bit of a
100%,
learning?
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
because it's new tech.
naivety was part of our strength, actually. You know, when you don't know what you don't know, you think you can do anything, right? So we were like, well, how hard can this be? You know, we see the components. We know where the customers are. There's no one making them in Europe and the States. Let's make them here. It's just buy a line and do a bit of development on the line and then do. We realized actually how hard it was to start manufacturing, but also the product itself. So the product itself is a connector, but there's an awful lot of chemistry that goes into it. So there's very special surface treatment that goes onto these parts, which basically stops the connector corroding when it's in the battery. Simplest way to put it. Now, understanding that chemistry, I mean, we have a PhD student at the University of Manchester also working on that right now full time. We've also obviously employed R&D team to do that as well on our side. We're now in a position where we've patented our own way of doing that surface treatment. It's a very green process. It's cheaper, it's faster. Because basically what the current state of the art is, you're doing a wet surface treatment and they're using 40-meter long lines to do it on. What we've developed is something extremely fast. We're not using consumables. So we patented that, and we want to develop and exploit that piece of technology that we've patented. But back in 2021, we didn't know that, right? We didn't know how much of a challenge this was. We thought we could go to a plating company in the Midlands and get them to do the surface treatment for us. We were wrong. Like, no one over here does the surface treatment that's currently done in Asia, partly because it's quite a slow process, but also because you're using a hazardous substance. So they're using chromium-6, which if you've ever seen Erin Brockovich, the movie, like chromium-6 is the chemical that basically leaches into the environment. Like it's banned over here, still being done in Asia today. But we needed to find, also we need to find a way of doing that we can use over here, that's not slow, that's cost effective. And fortunately we patented it and found it. So our company's grown from 2 of us during COVID to now, I mean, we're recruiting to 7 more people at the moment. That'll take us up to 33 people at the minute. We're now exporting to China, which is mad. I think so. We've developed quite unique products now, which our competitors don't make, which is basically they're the world's lightest connector in that part. So it's really good for like motorsport applications. Aviation is what we're trying to target now. So we're exporting that to China, which makes us think, okay, we're doing something right. If we're able to export from our cost base in the UK to a company in China, and they're actually one of the world's biggest battery producers in China, we must be on the right track with that product. So we've got 33, 34 people. We've grown over the last 5 years. We've kind of moved from being quite heavily dependent on the grants that we got. So that first grant that we won, that was a 3-year project. We then needed to develop our own equipment. So we secured another grant. We secured another 2 grants basically from that original one. We've kind of transitioned now from being quite reliant on those grants, because when you get a grant, what it means is basically anything you pay, if it's towards the R&D project, you can recoup half of those costs back essentially. But it's quite difficult to wean yourself off, because if you're employing people to do roles that you're able to recoup a contribution to their salary back, all of a sudden when that grant scheme finishes, well, how do you pay those people? You know, what are you doing? So we've actually moved away now, quite successfully, from being quite reliant on those grants to now being reliant on sales, which has put us in a really healthy position. And that's exactly what those grants are for. They're there to support companies through, call it a valley of death, right? Where you're investing a load of money into it, but not yet seeing those sales coming in. So those grants support companies through that valley of death. So we're kind of been through that, and we're now, I mean, we spoke before, we're just about to start our first second shift. We've never put a second shift on. We've done a kind of split shift before. This is the first second shift that we're doing.
Do you suffer from any of these problems? Are you asking around your office trying to find a new supplier or source materials? Have you got aged or high-priced stock that you'd like to liquidate anonymously? Or would you like new business from customers that are guaranteed to pay you for your materials? If the answer to any of the above is yes, then you'll be pleased to know that the Metal Guys Talk Business podcast is sponsored by SteelBuy. SteelBuy are a digital platform revolutionising the way businesses trade metal products online. SteelBuy offers risk-free trading where sellers are guaranteed to be paid, and automated processing including certification, logistics and invoicing. The network of vetted buyers and sellers is continually growing, and it's all housed in an easy-to-use trading platform accessible on any device. The online business-to-business marketplace for products is rapidly gathering pace, and SteelBuy are ideally positioned to capture the changing demands of steel buyers. So check out SteelBuy today and be part of the future of metal trading. Now let's jump back into the podcast.
How much do you think like having a background in market research has helped? Because you're talking a lot here. There's a lot of research, a lot of development going on, a lot of...
Yes. So, well, I think so the market research that I did right I mean, it was the first proper job out of uni, right? That was in the pharmaceutical industry, and it was interviewing people. So I guess I've learned to ask questions and try and listen to people and what they're saying. But I think when we were doing our So when you're raising investment, like, you have to know your shit. Like, you have to be the expert on your field. And because we didn't have, at that point, we didn't have a facility, we didn't have sales. Like, what is someone investing in? And they're investing in you. And when we took the investment, they made it very clear they're investing in me and what I'm driving forward. And I need to know what's going on. You know, I have to be the expert on the marketplace and what's going on everywhere. So I think going through that process to do that business plan, it has to be watertight. Like, investors will pick through. You know, if you've got most investors want to see a big hockey stick curve, right? Of sales where in a year's time, you've got 10 million in sales in a year's time. That's what they want to see. The reality is very, very different, right? Who goes from zero to that quick? Like, hardly anybody. The reality is something a bit more sustained and a bit more, we've doubled our sales year on year, which is amazing. But it's not like we're not yet at that hockey stick where we're at like 50 million in sales, but we're, doubling sales is still good, you know. But they will pick holes in those numbers. You know, if you've got to sit in front of someone and say, if you're asking for, quite large sums of money, to say, this is the business plan, they're going to scrutinize every row of your Excel spreadsheet or your predictions and forecasts to say, why do you think you're going to do that many sales in that year? Why do you think that? And so unless you've got something credible to back it up, they're going to see straight through it. So you have to.
Where do you see the future for the business going over the next few years?
That's a really, really good question. So we're just setting our objectives now for 25, 26. And the battery industry is it's on a teetering point right now. So what's happened? So just to explain, so 2020, 2019, all these companies started, all these startups. And one by one, those numbers have been shrinking. So a famous one in this country, so British Volt, I don't know if you heard about that one up in the northeast. It was going to be the UK's biggest industrial investment.
Yeah,
I
for
think ever.
batteries. Yeah,
Batteries, huge gigafactory, and I
closed
think
it.
they lasted 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah, got a lot of money.
they did.
Huge amount of
They got a lot of
investment.
money, but that story's quite typical of the battery industry. There's been a lot of money put into it. So the most high profile is a company called Northvolt. So I think they raised 4 or 5 billion, and they went bust earlier this year.
What's the issue they're having?
They're having a lot of technical problems. So making batteries is not easy. So like we learned when we just thought, oh, this component was pretty simple. There's loads of nuances around it. You know, something that you might be able to do is low volume. All of a sudden, you need to make millions of them. Like, translating from that lab scale to mass production, very, very challenging. So I think that sort of technical ability, China's ahead. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You know, you got this CATL, the biggest battery company in the world. They've got an R&D department of thousands of people. I was in Beijing, I think in 2017, 18. They'd already banned petrol two-wheelers in that city. So they'd already electrified all the two-wheelers in that city. So sometimes I think culturally, sometimes we think we're ahead in terms of innovation and technology.
It's just an arrogance, isn't there, to Europeans? When they look at China, they still look at it as like it's cheap crap.
I think, yeah,
It's so wrong.
and I think when you go there and you see
Yeah.
actually there's loads of great tech. So last time I was in China was last year, and our the company we went to see, they said, "Hey, I want to show you what we see as the Chinese automotive industry," and they basically took me to what they couldn't have a shopping centre. A bit like a Trafford Centre in Manchester, Bullring, right, in Birmingham. Took us there, and it was full of car showrooms in there. So you can go and buy nice clothes, but also car showrooms, right? And these are brands that most people never heard of. Like, these are not Western brands, these are Chinese brands. And we went into the Huawei. So Huawei, we know from kind of like mobile devices, like 5G,
Mhm.
big 5G debate for Huawei, right?
Yeah.
They've also made a car. And it's unbelievable. Like, it's like 50 grand. It's like super luxury, super tech, long range, fast charging. And that's 50 grand. And like a 50 grand EV in this country today, like what do you get for it? Nowhere near as much as what you get for that. So I think they're just the Chinese automotive players are very, very strong, and they've seen this coming for a long time.
And what's the with hydrogen? And it won't have an effect on.
There's always the debate on hydrogen. My view is that there's so much money being put into batteries, like billions being put into batteries, that is the technology that's here to stay for the next, I don't know how many years, but certainly into 2030 and mid-2020 in 2030. If companies are investing billions in these factories, they want them to work, and they're betting on that.
Yeah.
Your question was, why have companies struggled in Europe and the States in particular? Because there has been a lot that have struggled. So technical capabilities is one. The fact that China is so strong, their supply chain, so it's not just building the batteries, it's also the surrounding supply chain, all the materials that go into that. Where on earth do you get those from? If you want to build in Europe or the United States, all your battery materials are in China, Korea, Japan. So you're just going to ship them over here and pay all those freight costs just to assemble them in over here. You need to really have your own supply chain around it. So if you go to China and Korea, they've got their local supply chain. I mean local, like within 50 to 100 miles. They've got all the components all dotted around there.
You used to see it in the metal industry, like when people were buying duplex and super duplex pipes and things like that. At the time, you'd buy that all in Europe. They had a complete monopoly on it. And the Chinese were trying to get into that market sector. And they just end up having to buy starters from Europe to then reprocess in China. And then they'd try and sell it back in. You were like, well, you're never going to be able to compete. You're never going to be able to compete. I think that's the issue, isn't it? When you look at where the material sources are, like, I'm guessing we're kind of flogging a dead horse, really. Even if you put in billions into it,
you need to stimulate that supply chain. So the likes of Innovate UK and the Advanced Propulsion, they are absolutely trying their best to stimulate this supply chain. The problem that we've got now is because of I'm going to say the independent companies. So when I'm talking about the independent battery companies, I mean none of like the top 10. So top 10 players like the CATLs, Korean guys, LGs. In 2020, it was all startups like Northvolt, British Volt. A lot of those guys are shrinking now, and it's very difficult to penetrate those existing players because they've already got their supply chains in place. So our business model is built around supporting those European and Western companies. What's actually happened in reality is one of our biggest customers today is in China. Our second biggest is in the United States.
was that in your business plan?
No, I wasn't. No,
Back of a fag pack, you mate.
That's it, yeah.
He just made it up.
That's it. That's it. We call it pivoting, right? We have to. We've pivoted a lot over the last, and absolutely. So we had to pivot a lot. So this unique product that we developed was not in our original business plan. We saw an opportunity, and we're like, okay, well, we need to differentiate ourselves. So let's go and develop this product. Our original business plan was basically to replicate the equipment that we've got in-house today, just on a bigger scale. Now today, because technology is moving so fast, like, I mean, you just look at AI now around the last 12 months, like.
Yeah, last 2 weeks.
Yeah, big time, yeah. I mean, I used to be really scared of using AI, and now it's kind of starting to creep into my daily work life, AI now. I don't know if it's for you guys.
Yeah.
But a year ago, I wouldn't have even thought about it. AI now, I don't know anything about it, but now it's like, okay, well, we've got to embrace it. And the same thing's happening in batteries, like the pace of development is just crazy. So you ask, like, where do we see the business going? Like, we still have our scale plans, but potentially we may need to target Asia more proactively than what we have done previously, because at the moment that's where the market is predominantly. United States, I think they've got so they introduced the Inflation Reduction Act, or Biden administration did. Basically, the net effect reduced the cost of that final battery for a certain time period, which allowed people to then start to compete with China. How that's going to play out under the new administration, I don't know. I've seen some bits of snippets. Are they trying to stop that? I don't know. I mean, the political landscape is changing very quickly in this country, never mind in the States and further afield. So it's difficult to kind of see. Yeah.
Interesting times. Do you think like Europe and the UK can like really compete with China? I know it's like, it seems that sometimes those kind of questions are a bit, they can sound
Yeah,
a bit loaded,
loaded,
almost,
yeah.
because really I'm like, well, I don't know if they can. But like,
I mean,
you know, you're kind of in that sector, so you're networking with people.
yeah.
You've really like gone deep into it. So what do you think?
So I think they can. I mean, there's a big battery company up in the northeast of this country, and they've been, I think, in this country since 2013.
Who are
So
they?
so that's Envision, and
Right.
they were making cells for the Nissan Leaf,
Yeah.
which has been around for ages, right? So they're building a big factory. You've got Tata are building a big factory in Somerset called Agratas.
Yeah.
There's a huge facility in Wrocław in Poland, right? So these are kind of established companies who are making batteries, selling batteries, and doing it successfully. So I think it can be done. I think it's just very difficult for a new company to maybe penetrate that market, because those companies have got years of experience. In particular, like of LG and Envision, they've got years of experience making it.
It's exciting though for you, because I think there's lots of British manufacturing companies that have been around a long time, and they might be dealing with quite historic market sectors. So when you get new players, it's always difficult to penetrate and get in and beat those people. But because you're in a set where there's not really a pre-existing, it's kind of, there's huge opportunity, and I just think it's really interesting. It must be so exciting when you look at, right, we've had an idea, it's kind of working, or it is working, but what are the things that you think you can develop further? Because you've got just, is it one product at the moment that you're pushing in, or?
So we've got two unique products.
Yeah,
Two
okay.
unique products. One that's already commercialized. Second one is pre-commercialized. So we're putting a lot of investment into.
Similar type of product to the,
It's basically, so it's that surface treatment that we spoke about. So the lightweight product that we developed, I think, is for very niche applications. So I think that's where motorsport, aviation, maybe drones. I mean, drones in a minute. That's another booming market, but it's still quite niche. So our other product that we've developed is more going to say for mass adoption of EVs or high volume energy storage.
yeah.
It's just not quite commercially ready yet. So we're working with, again, Innovate UK to try and receive some help to develop that and take it to the next, basically next TRL or MRL, basically your next step in the development model.
Some spoke about batteries. Obviously, you've got the steel side,
Yeah.
the materials. Is it steel and batteries? Is there anything else within the group that you kind of got going on?
Yeah, so I'd say so how we develop our business, we actually split it into three. Okay, so we have Avocet Materials Group, which encompasses Avocet Precision Metals, which is our, I can say, metals and distribution business. So that's steel, copper, aluminium, painted steel, nickel-based alloys, titanium. But essentially sales and distribution. We've then got Avocet Battery Materials, which is our manufacturing side of our business. And then we've got another business unit called ARC, which is Avocet Research Centre. So that's where, because we've got such a strong R&D team, we'll work with companies if they want to develop a new product. Tends to typically be in associated industries, so like the battery industry, just because that's where a lot of our customers are. But we've also done some stuff in carbon. For example, a company came to us and said, hey, we want to take a piece of coal and turn it into a battery material. Can you guys help us? So we said, yeah, okay, we'll help you. Put together an R&D program for them, and we delivered that. So that's another stream of income for us, is basically either product development or R&D services for companies.
Where are you finding all kind of your leads for these type of things? I mean, how are you kind of?
So over the years, we've evolved from mostly proactive outbound sales to utilizing a lot of web content, so SEO. So we work very closely with a good friend of mine, actually, who does our SEO for us, who helps us get found at the top of Google. We've then recently employed a marketing specialist who's then putting together a lot of content for us and trying to get us found more. We do a lot of trade shows. We'll go to a trade show in Europe. There's one in the States that we're going to in October. So I think we've got quite a good reputation, particularly within both industries, in I'm going to say the metals industry and the battery industry, for being quite a proactive company. So as a business now, we're quite a young company. So our average age in our management team is early 30s. So we've all got quite a lot of, well, not quite a lot, a lot of drive and ambition to push the company forward, and that's really helped us. So we spoke at the start about the team. Like our management team right now is really, really good. All very super motivated. They motivate their teams, and they're all on the same page. We're all on the same bus, and we're all going the same way, which is to grow our business. And we've actually developed, and we spoke about it, I think a couple of weeks ago, about culture. We said, oh, it's a bit sort of like cringy. I said, what a culture, because what does it actually mean? But we've actually put a lot of work into like creating what we think is a really cool place to work, because we had an opportunity back in 2020 when there's two of us. Like, we're growing something, and we can shape what this company looks and feels like, and what do we want it to feel like. So like, right, well, let's create some values. So we created our cultural values. We publish them when we bring a team member in on the first day. They get given basically like an internal brochure, and it talks about our cultural values and what that might expect and what it might feel like. So, for example, we talk about like sink or swim quite a lot at our place. Like, you might get put in an uncomfortable situation. We might ask someone from the R&D team to accompany one of our sales guys on a sales call. And R&D, they're not used to going on a sales call with someone, but actually they're normally the best people from a technical perspective to sell the product, right? So we were like, well, it's sink or swim, right? People will swim. We're not gonna let you sink. Like, you will swim. So we're kind of pushing people as well. I don't think and that's something which I think I've learned a lot of in the last 5 years, because we obviously, coming from that quite small business, you can get quite comfy. You get quite relaxed. You can just do the day to day, deal with the inbound inquiries.
When you sat in the pub doing a few quotes,
That's it.
it's very easy.
You get
watching a film on a
That's
Friday.
it. You get comfy, but yeah, we wanted to like develop our own skill set and learn more about what it is to be in manufacturing, and what it is to how far can we go. So we really push our team to like have the same ethos, and we have quite a rigorous recruitment program. So even for a production operator, it's 2 interviews for production operator, because we want to make sure we have the right people.
Yeah.
And it makes such a difference when we have the right people, and it really does.
How have you found it within your role? Obviously, look, the business has grown since 2012 when you joined.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be a lot of times where you feel like, God, I don't really know the answers. I mean, who do you confide in to, like,
Yeah.
when you're stressed? Because it's difficult when you've probably built a team quite small to where it is now. There have been people early on you probably would have almost have a closer relationship with, because it's just natural when it's a small team. When you grow, and you almost have to, you suppose you're trying to have to distance yourself.
Yeah.
But at times it's always lonely when you're in that senior position, and also who to confide in, because you don't necessarily want them to see that you're stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like tearing at the top, right? If you're stressed, everyone else is going to be
Yeah,
stressed,
100%. Yeah.
right? So you have to have that calm demeanor. Yeah.
Mm.
Like, I'm pretty open with our team. Like, we're still learning. Like, I don't know every single answer. Not come across every situation. We're still learning. So I'm quite open about it. I don't hide it at all. Certainly when we were first starting out, I worked very closely with our ops director, who has set up factories. So I thought, well, if I can learn everything I can from him, it's going to put me in a good situation if I can just absorb what and just absorb it and try and apply it to our day to day. And I think that's been pretty successful. So he retired earlier this year, and we actually retired in a good place. A couple of years ago, in retiring, we might have gone, okay, are we in a bit of trouble there? Because our main person who knows manufacturing is retiring, but actually left us in a pretty good state. I'd absorbed loads. Our team had absorbed a lot from him. On top of that, I think we tend to talk things out a lot as a team. So we're very close with our production manager, sales manager, head of technical, our chief commercial officer. When we've got a problem, we'll talk it out and we'll try and find a solution together. Now, if there's something I'm going to say that's like a bigger issue, but we've also got our board. So Andrew, who helped us raise the investment, he's got an awful lot of experience across a range of companies. I think he's founded like 20 companies. I sometimes go to him and get his feeling on things. But I think I'd say a big part of it is how we talk about talk about it as a team, and we'll approach it quite collaborative. We're definitely not a dictatorial company, whereas this is how it's going to be done. Do it. It's very much a right. There's an issue. Let's talk about it. Let's get who are the most knowledgeable people in the company on that topic, and let's fix it and let's solve it together.
This episode is brought to you by Nero Pipeline Connections, the go-to supplier for stainless steel tube, fittings, valves and pipeline products across the UK. Whether you're in process, manufacturing or engineering, Nero makes sourcing simple. They've got over 12,000 products in stock, from BSP, fittings to flanges, valves and fasteners, and all are available for next day delivery. With ISO 9001 accreditation and an experienced team, they're built for businesses that can't afford downtime. So check out nero.co.uk to explore their full range. And now, back to the pod. How do you get... Because youngsters typically will be motivated if you're motivated, but like, how are you? Like, do you use KPIs? Do you use metric? How do you keep those people on track? Because when we were chatting a few weeks ago, and I might have got this wrong, but you were almost like the incremental gains bit. That was like a really big thing for you.
Yeah.
Because we were almost going, oh, it sounds embarrassing when you're going, oh yeah, let's use the Jurgen Klopp philosophy and stuff. But like, how have you brought that in, and has that actually worked to keep those youngsters motivated?
When the Jurgen Klopp things, if you go on my LinkedIn, I've got a quote. Our marketing specialist says you need to have a quote on LinkedIn, so I chose.
Who told you that?
Our marketing specialist.
Oh, there we go.
Have a quote on it. You got a quote. It's a Jurgen Klopp quote, right? So I'm massively into my sports, right? So I've played sports since I was primary school, and very competitively. And I'm a great believer of that incremental gains, which you said can be quite cringy, right? But I definitely think it works. And we have a lot of team meetings. So once a month, we'll stop as a company for an hour and we'll talk through our business as a whole. And we'll talk through financial position, we'll talk through sales, we'll talk through social stuff, basically anything that I think people should know about. We'll talk about competitors, what they're doing.
Very dictatorial there, didn't you? Things I think. just to mention it.
Anything I think we should know.
Not about the two.
That's it. We talk about it, and because I want people to know what I know.
Yeah.
Because I always think when you go around, and when I used to go around to see a customer or go on, and I try and ask a question, like, who are your competitors? But I don't know who they are. I've no idea. And I think people should know that people should know that information within the business, because they're going to come with us with ideas of how to improve things. Yeah. So the more they know, the better ideas we're going to get, and the more we're all going to succeed together. So we do that a lot. We've actually got a pretty decent retention rate at our business, which I think is quite unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, you in recruitment, you guys will probably see.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it is. But a lot of bigger companies. Depends how big your head count, isn't it? I think the way you've explained how you've built the business, it's getting everyone on board, isn't it? Like a lot of the hassles people have when they're an SME is going, you've got someone who's really ambitious. They get to a point and they're going, I need to leave because I want to go further myself. I think what you spoke about a lot today is bringing everyone on that journey, communicating it, and everyone still feels part, because everyone's going, well, as a team and as a company, we haven't reached the ceiling yet. Yeah. We're still going for it. Yeah. And that's really difficult to create that type of environment, because normally you have your salesperson who's going, well, I'm doing all this. Seeing perhaps the owners getting the reward, and they just feel deflated by it. So to bring people on your journey, but as well as the company, it's a very special thing to be able to create.
That's why it's exciting for you, because we see it with a number of companies that we deal with, some of the bigger ones. They've got some great people in there, but once the business is, it's not that it's saturated, but it's doing really well, there's only so many positions. Whereas I think from what you're saying, it looks like your business could really grow a lot. So this actual young team, they can probably see all the creation of these opportunities, like the things that your business will do. You don't even know yourself how it's going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
It's nice for them to see on the journey, isn't it? Because there's not many businesses you can work for and actually help grow a business. Normally you work for someone who's a market leader. They're a certain turnover company, and you might work there for 2 or 3 years, but you won't really feel you've had much change in that. Where if you're kind of joining a company where you they're almost, if you put it into football terms, you're in the Prem, but you're fed up of fighting for relegation. We're trying to get into a European spot here. We're almost trying to become like a Villa, aren't we, over the last few years, which kills me to say. But yeah, like you're part of a journey, aren't you? And if you all got that team, you're going on it together, aren't you?
Yeah.
Everyone's going the same way, which is the sink or swimming, isn't it? The ones who are going to sink are the ones who don't really want to be on the journey with you.
People have seen, I think, as well, like the transition. So physically, and at our place, you can physically see the change. It's not necessarily something you feel, you can physically see it. So like when we first moved in, it's completely empty, you know, and now our factory's full. Like we are full. But that's not been overnight, you know, it's been the incremental gains, right? We just added to it. We built another office because we needed more space, built some more
Got a
meeting
mezzanine.
rooms. With not a full mezzanine.
Oh, they're not quite there.
Not quite, that's it, yeah. People can see it, yeah. People can see that, okay, the team's growing, you know. We've added more people, and as the team grows, those people, you know, who are doing really well will naturally get promoted within the business, so they can see it. And I think people can see each other's growth as well.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking on more responsibility, you know, which I think gives them that self of, right, I'm developing, I'm learning, because we are all absolutely all in it together.
It'd be interesting to see longer term, you know, if you fast forward 20 years from now and see how many of these people are still with you. Because
Yeah.
we were chatting about in the States, you see people and they've worked at a company for 40 years. And in the UK now, particularly like the younger generation that are coming through, it does seem like people are moving around more quickly. The longevity on people's CVs, it seems to be...
That's the problem with recruitment companies, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not
really
really
hard,
opportunities.
yeah.
No, there's just
too many
naturally,
jobs.
there's loads of opportunities. People are getting messaged left, right and centre, and it just takes, you know, one bad week and people lose their heads, don't they? And I think there's definitely recruitment play a part in that. I think kind of people used to leave, go and have a job for life, didn't they? It wasn't so connected. That's probably the worst thing, I suppose, about the internet, and everyone's more connected, whether it's in recruitment or even if you look at, say, the metal supply chain. People can quickly find suppliers, not just in the UK, all over the world now, aren't they?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Like I was going to say, like obviously you started off work-life balance. Now I imagine you don't have one. And how's that been? And how do you
Yeah,
kind of manage that?
well, at the same time with a baby as well, at the same time. So
Congratulations.
as well as well, he's 4 now, but when we started the company, we go through that investment raise, which is a full-time job in itself. Yeah, I had a baby, so it was pretty intense. It really was. Now I would say, weirdly, as we've got bigger, before, because with just 2 of us, like you had to do everything.
Yeah.
Like we did the sales. If we had to go to the warehouse, inspect something, go and inspect it, delivery notes, invoicing. We did the full sort of sales process. Now we've actually got a bit bigger. I'm actually, you know, we've got a team there who's out of the office. You know, me being here today, our company is still functioning and delivering on our customers' products. So I would say actually having a child, because I have to do the first drop off in the morning. So I'll drop him off at 8. I have to pick him up at 6. I can't be at work to do that. So I physically have to stop and go and do it. Otherwise I can't, my child's going to get stuck at nursery and get booted out into the street. So actually that's kind of changed a little bit of my work-life balance, because I have to stop. And I think it's really healthy to stop, actually, and take that break. And it's difficult to do it when you've got a mountain of work. It really is.
Yeah.
I think we've got maybe a little bit more efficient. It's something that we've learned on. We spoke a couple of weeks ago. So one of the industries that we've worked very closely with is motorsport. And I thought, so one of our cultural pillars is agility. So when we set the company up and we were, yeah, right, what's going to make a really great company? We're like, right, well, caring for a family business, we need to make sure we care about our team. People care about each other. We care about the work we're doing. We care about our customers. That needs to be part of it. We need to keep that in. We're like, well, inspiration. That's in my mind. What's the biggest driver of why someone goes to work should be inspire. So if you can inspire someone, so you don't just turn up to work just to get a paycheck. You go in because do you know what, we want to go and we want to work towards whatever that thing may be.
You're excited.
We're gonna go and do it because it's a cool project.
Yeah.
My team are there, and I enjoy working with my team, and they're inspired, and we're all going to go on to it. I mean, for me, that's the biggest drive. I think it's the hardest one to do in business, definitely. And so Inspire's okay. Inspire, quality driven is another one. So we have to be really everything we do has got to be right. We can't be selling rubbish. It's got to be right. Quality driven, agility. We have to be fast. Because the strength of a small company is how fast you can work. You know, you've not got reams and reams of red tape. You want to do something. Same as your company. If you want to go and sell marketing services, okay, well, go and do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can go and do it tomorrow if you
Yeah,
wanted to,
100%,
right?
yeah.
Same as we didn't want to lose that agility of a small business, right? How do you answer it? So motorsport,
Yeah.
I thought we were really fast.
Yeah, you
as a
were, yeah.
company. And when we got into the motorsport industry, that opened my eyes to that's fast, right? When they need to do something, all resources go on it, and it's done within a couple of days.
How did that happen? How did you start working with those motorsport clients? Did they come to you? Was it an opportunity you saw? What was the start point for that?
I think that was an inbound inquiry off our website, which then cross-sold to another products.
What were they looking for? What was it that they?
So this was battery tech, and they wanted a very specific part that they wanted to develop, and they came to me and said, "Can we help them develop it?"
Okay, just one more. So, what the hell had you written on your website?
So
that someone was because that's the thing. It's like, how are they searching for things that are not necessarily the norm? How are you getting that lead?
So they came to us for a standard product. They came to us, and then through our sales calls with them, we said, okay, well, we could do this. Yeah. As well as this product, we also do X, Y, Z, and we can do this. And then it kind of like, mine started thinking, okay, well, what could we develop from this? And then we started brainstorming and then came up with it.
And what about, let's go into that agility then. So what was the speed that, because you start working with them and then all of a sudden, are they coming back and saying, develop?
That speed has been demonstrated in the last few months, I think, really. So as you ramp up a product, going from new product development through to production, it's not going to be smooth, right? You're going to hit some hurdles. You try and preempt as much as you can, but there is going to be some things you don't know. When you hit those hurdles, that's when you've got to be really fast. And they taught us basically how to be fast.
Right.
And it showed me, actually, that's how fast we can go. So if we weren't pushing before, and when we push, that's when, wow, we can go fast.
You don't know what you don't know.
But you don't know what you don't know, absolutely. So working with them opened our eyes to go, okay, well, actually, we can, if we put our minds to it and we really plan and set deadlines, we can do it, and we'll do it fast. So we've tried to continue that ethos on with other projects, and just in our general day-to-day, like, we can be much faster before we thought we were fast. And maybe we were compared to a ginormous PLC company who's got to go through various red tape. But for an SME, we can be a lot faster, and that can be a big advantage to us if we can do things quickly.
The Metal Guys Talk Business podcast is brought to you by Compton Group, a recruitment agency operating in the metal, manufacturing and engineering sectors. With a large, engaged network of candidates and clients, we help businesses make great hires in sales, operational, technical, quality and managerial roles, as well as assisting people in their careers by matching their unique skills and aspirations to businesses that are hiring. Having worked with more than 200 niche businesses since 2019, Compton Group have become the go-to recruitment partner for many of our industry's leading names. So talk to us about your next career move, or let us work with you on your business's next hire. Compton Group, recruitment engineered for metal and manufacturing. I wanted to just roll back a little bit because we've got gone through loads of stuff here. I just wanted to roll back a little bit to funding briefly, because you spoke a little bit about it, but I want to go a bit more into the minutiae of, right, how do you do this kind of thing? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you anything like really tricky. It's more that we're seeing, or Mike and I are seeing, more new faces kind of buying into the sector, looking at our industry sector and going, right, how do I get into it? To set up businesses is so costly. they typically buy. You've gone the other way, where you've gone, actually, we're going to raise the money and then we're going to create the business. So people who might be listening to this might be thinking, well, actually, similar to you, we've got a business that does X and we see opportunities here, and we don't just want to be the conduit to supply someone else. We want to do the thing ourselves, or be a bit more entrepreneurial, or make the thing like you wanted to do right at the start. That's what you were saying at the start of the pod. So when you're looking at a thing that you want to build and you're trying to put that funding together, what would be a good way of starting that process, like putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, as a kind of, how do you start building out a plan? And then tell me a little bit about some guidance or things that really helped you turn a plan into a pitch to then actually tangibly making it happen.
I'll handle it slightly differently.
Tell me.
I think the biggest thing we've learned is sales is 100% the most important part of any business, without doubt. And when you're building something from scratch, how do you get those sales to begin with? So a really easy way to get into the market is through distribution. So if you can start just by entering a market through buying and selling, like, you've then got something, you've got sales.
Yeah.
You can then, if you want to then start making that product later, then you can do if you want to. But if you start with distribution, you can buy and sell, enter that market, get to know the customers, get to know the price level, get to know really, okay, well, maybe we're only selling small quantities of these. Is that really the selling price at volume? You know, because when you get to volume, that selling price comes rocketing down. So that distribution side is something, if I was going to go back 5 years ago, we probably would have put more emphasis on the sales side for that product, build some more sales before we then
Entered
from a manufacturing perspective. So that's something that we've learned. So how do you go about sort of like planning it? And you have to do your research on the market. So, and I think through that distribution, that's almost like a shortcut through. You can kind of make some money whilst researching the market.
Were you literally asking those questions? Were you almost saying to people like, yeah, I've got this idea to do, like, being that blunt, like, what are you currently doing? How are you doing it? What would be better?
Do you mean like
When you're looking at this product that you initially made?
Yeah.
So you've built this plan around building this product. So are you just talking to prospective clients and just being that blunt? I'm thinking of doing this.
yeah.
What would you pay?
Yeah, so the advantage that we had is companies want to have a local supply chain, and if there's no one out there doing it right now, if you're contacting a customer to say, we're building a factory, or we want to build a factory in the UK, can we have some information which will help us do that? You're going to benefit from a product that's just down the road from you. They've been pretty receptive. So our customers have been pretty receptive, and they've supported us, not with sales necessarily, but letters of support. So a letter of support to an investor that says, look, when this is built, like, we're going to buy from you, and we'll support Avocet Battery Materials on this journey. So they'll do that. But yeah, absolutely. Talking to customers is critical. You have to understand that market. You have to understand where customers run, because you want to find where your gap in that market is going to be. So if it's an existing product, like, what is the thing that sets you apart? So in our case, I'm going to say more standard parts, what sets us apart is we've got local manufacturing, we've got the traceability, we can do small quantities very quickly. So a lot of our competitors will only entertain the big battery companies, whereas some of our companies who are doing R&D, they might only want a small quantity. We'll do that for them. So we can be like a development partner. So through talking to our customers, we got to see where the niches were that we could start to exploit from a marketing perspective, which is really critical, because that was actually how we built our business plan. So the big question
that was directly in the plan. You were like, we're a local manufacturer.
Yeah.
We've got letters of support from local companies. We can make small quantities. We'll be a development partner. Were those physically written in that plan?
Absolutely, yeah. And they're still in today, yeah. Because a big question is, well, why? Why do you think you're going to be successful? So when you're raising money, why do you think you're going to get those sales next year or that year?
Did you show them the quote?
Yeah. So you have to have that why. Why are people actually going to buy from you? And it's not always necessarily cost reasons. there might be some other intangibles. Same reason why people are gonna. Why do you think people use yourselves for recruitment? It's not necessarily. It's not because probably you're the cheapest recruiters out there. I'm sure that's not the case. It's because you develop relationships. You know the markets inside out. You know your customers. You probably vet your candidates a bit better than maybe competitors. Those are kind of like the whys rather than just a straightforward like pounds and pence. We're a little bit cheaper, so we think we're going to undercut everybody. So you have to develop that why. We had to develop our marketing materials prior to even launching. We had to develop all that. We had to build our website. We had to build our financial model. How are we going to finance this? So yes, you're getting this money to do this, but this is only going to last you X amount of months. So how you need to make sure you're getting those sales in. Otherwise, you're not going to have a business at the end of it.
What were those kind of, again, you can tell me to bugger off, but I'm just kind of interested in, we're going to get X amount of funding. We're going to have this much headcount. This is what these people are going to cost. It's quite easy to work that out. That's the factory, all of that kind of stuff. That's relatively easy. But we're going to do this much sales, like, because that's not guaranteed.
No, it's not.
Is it?
No,
That's the thing. So how are you picking that? It's not just like wave my finger around and guess. I know you've got to kind of make it add up, but you've got the funding now, so they're not going to tell you off. But was it just a guess? Was it a speculation? Did you go low, high, middle? Like what did you pick as your, this is our figure?
We went through every single potential customer. We found out what their usage was. We calculated, okay, a rough percent, if we're going to be successful with these customers. Let's say there's 10 customers, we're going to convert 20%, which would be a high conversion rate. And of that business, maybe we get 40%. What does that look like? And what does that look like over X amount of years? Because the easiest thing to do when you're raising money is completely discredit your business plan by saying you're going to convert 100% of all your customers and getting all their business. This is the selling price. And yeah, you'll have 100 million in 2 years. Like it just doesn't happen. Like the harsh reality is it's actually a lot harder than what you think it's going to be. So we've learned that it was a lot harder. Like setting up a manufacturing business is a lot harder than what it sounds like.
And what were the things you were going to the hard? Because you always mess up and forget something, even with investors' eyes scrutinizing.
Yeah.
Was there much that cost you substantially more, or things that occurred where you were like, I wish I'd known that?
So the surface treatment that's on the parts, like a lot of our customers don't even know there's a surface treatment on them. So if you go to a customer and say, what's the specification for this? They'll give you like dimensional drawing. They won't tell you there's a very special surface treatment that all the other tab manufacturers have as their secret sauce, very closely guarded secret.
Yeah.
You need to put that on there. So when we raised the investment, like, we knew at that point there was something there. We didn't know to what extent of how complex it was. Only once we started, like, oh shit, right, we need a full R&D team to figure this one out. Let's start with that. The other was on the product itself. There's a tapering on the edges, and the raw material that we use, and you'll notice from a metals background, is very soft. So we're using H0 aluminium, soft temper copper, and basically we're putting a taper. Now from a steel background, I'm like, well, we can just go to a steel service center and get it skived. Piss. No problem. There's loads of them. Because the material's so soft, you can't skive it.
Yeah.
Right? So we exhausted every single metal service center in the UK to be able to put that tapering on the edge. Which we were like, right, well, how are we going to do this now? So we had to buy in equipment ourselves to be able to do it. Again, more costs, but we didn't know until you get into it. Like looking back, it's like, well, we should have done some early trials, but you've got 1,000,001 things. When you set up a business, 1,000,001 things that you're doing on with quite a short, small bandwidth of team members to do it with.
But that'd be the thing, like that thing you just said there, early trials, doing trials would have been massive for you, because you'd have been like, oh wow, we're completely falling down here and there.
But then what it does give us, now we've overcome all those challenges, it's like, well, that is a big fucking barrier to entry now. Like, no, your average company down the road is not going to bother to do that, because we know how hard it's been.
And if you'd have tried at the start, you might not have gone through with it. You might have thought,
Yeah, might have
this is
given
a
up.
massive
Yeah.
pain. Almost because you've got this money, you're going through it. You almost like, I've got to do it now.
Yeah, I
Like
hear,
before, you could have just walked away. It's like one of those, isn't it?
yeah, I hear a lot of that. Like people who say, like, would you have, if you knew how hard it was when you started,
Mm.
like, would you have really done it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
I could never answer that. Yeah,
It's part of your journey, isn't it?
yeah. But it just gives me it's pretty proud that we've overcome it, and also now that we're kind of through all that development and we're now into steady state production at our factory now, which is awesome.
You've written your plan without your trials.
Yeah.
And now you're going to start pitching. And as you said, like you've overcome a little bit of that fear of or trepidation speaking in public, but you stood in front of a lender. Are you going to multiple ones of these? Do you just go to one? Like what's the crack?
So it's generally a range. When as a startup, you generally go to like they call it angel investors.
And did Innovate sort that for you, or were you finding them?
So as part of their course where they kind of taught you how to talk to investors, it culminated in a pitch event where they had maybe like a room full of investors. So they did that, but outside of that, you're on your own. You know, it's up to you to sort it out and make contacts with whoever. So we went to venture capital companies. We approached angels. We approached angel consortiums, and we pitched like I don't know how many times we pitched, like hundreds. Because you've got, for an investor to invest, they have to understand your tech. They have to investors typically will invest in kind of things that they're comfortable and know about, because they think that's where they know they can spot a good one or not. And who knows this market, like no one's made this before, so over here, so no one knows the market. So it's very difficult. And the other thing is as well is like investors, I think over here can be quite impatient. So when we talk about like investing in manufacturing, like for instance, hard tech, and like the payback period in hard tech is quite long compared to when you talk about software. So in software, there's a lot of investment goes into software because, you know, your overheads are relatively low. You've got a team of people who might be working from home, working on various bits of software, and then you sell it, and you can get pretty good returns on it. Hardware is different. Like you're investing in equipment that even if your sales are low, or you're still paying all your overheads, you're still paying for your factory. You still got to feed it. Like that could be perceived to be quite risky. The other side that some people look at as well, actually, think it's less risky because it's buying something tangible, and you know it's a thing that people can see, and people will buy it and people will pay for it. Whereas software, maybe they're not going to get that. But I would say in general, I'd say in the UK, investors are quite hesitant to invest because maybe the payback period is too long. Because for us to set up a factory, realistically, and get to the point where you're seeing returns on sales is probably going to take 5-6 years. It's not that short 1 to 2 year period where, and after 2 years you get your money back and your investment's paying off. So I think other countries are a lot more patient. So in Germany, they seem to be a lot more patient. In America, America seems to be to chuck money at lots of things in America.
That's what I was going to say. Did you think about looking at investors in different geographical?
We were fortunate. So how we raised ours, I approached someone quite local to us who was basically he'd created his own business, sold out, and his technology was similar to ours. So for ours to make our product, it's a heat sealing. So we're taking 2 layers of polypropylene and we're heat sealing it to a piece of metal. So using time, temperature, and pressure to basically squash polypropylene onto metal. It's very, very niche, but this person had developed his business around food packaging, and I approached him just as a mentor. You know, would you mind? I want to do this and build this company. Would you mind sort of coaching me or give me advice as I go? And he ended up getting really enthusiastic about it and said, Kieren, I'll give you what you need to do this project. Let's do it. So he's still an investor in our company. He's I would say more of a silent investor in some ways. We'll meet once every 8 weeks and we'll talk through what's going well in the company, what's not going well, and he'll still give pointers on, okay, well, maybe we should look at this, look at that. But it's a pretty healthy relationship where I'm very open with him on the situation of our company, good and bad, and he respects that, and we have a good relationship for that.
Did you have to lose much as a percentage of your business? Like, how did you start?
Yeah, so obviously as a startup, you are the only thing tangible. So at that point we had a grant that was kind of banked,
Yeah.
but you only get the benefits of that once you spend your money. So it's catch-22. So yes, you've got a grant offer that says you've got £1.4 million project, and we're going to give you 700 grand towards it. But you still need 700 grand.
Yeah.
Or you still need the 1.4
Yeah, correct,
first
to
to
start
begin
pulling
with,
it
to
back,
start
yeah.
with, and you'll recoup the 700. We had that, and we had our business plan, and we had our vision.
Because I'm only saying it because you've got a business already. So you've got a business that makes money already, like you said, the quasi startup.
Yes.
So it's like, did you have to end up like losing part of that?
So that's
Because you're almost, because that's the issue. Because I've heard loads of stories about VC funding, and people have said to me, they're like, this is what I did. I got a VC involved, and I ended up getting shafted, basically.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. So when you've got a business where you and your dad, I don't know what the shares were, but it's like you own that 100%, and then all of a sudden you're bringing people in who really, you don't know them.
Yeah.
And you're more just, because you want the money so bad that you're not necessarily vetting the people
Yeah, you're not looking at
quite
the
so
downside.
much. So you're almost like you're being blinded by it, but you're also giving away your company. So like, how did that look, and how did you feel?
The way our company is set up, we have two trading businesses, Avocet Battery and Avocet Steel, and I wanted to make sure that there was no conflict between the two companies. So I wanted to still be heavily involved in our distribution and sales business, because that's what's created. That's where we started.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna start something and just drop that one. We're still in our plan at the moment. We're still growing both businesses successfully, but I didn't want to have any conflict where I could, I've got an investor on my shoulder saying, Kieren, you need to stop working on the steel business because I've invested in you, and I can see you're working on that one over there when you should be on this one. I didn't want to have that conflict at all. So what we agreed was to sell some shares in both businesses. So in our both companies, the shareholding is completely mirrored. So there's no conflict whatsoever between either company.
Right.
So what that means as a organization is we'll have 35 people, and each person will work across both businesses at some point.
Right.
So our R&D team, as an example, are employed by Avocet Battery Materials. But if we're going to see a very technical customer for Avocet Precision Metals on the distribution side, where we need some material scientist support, absolutely we'll utilize them to the strength of our steel business. So one of the byproducts of us doing what we've done and bringing everything in-house absolutely has strengthened our steel business, because what we've been able to do is we've gone where we were subcontracting all our warehousing, we brought everything internal. So all our materials now in our factory or in our warehousing space. Our I'm going to say the roles that we wouldn't have hired in our precision metals business, so R&D, engineers, we then benefit from having them within our team in our steel and metals business, because we can utilize their skill set in whether that's sales calls, whether it's technical quality issues, whatever it is. We have that additional skill set, and we use that as a selling point with our customers now. So I don't think many metals companies will have the insight of what it means for manufacturing. So we know, for example, the pain of a manufacturer if our raw material is late. Like we know, like if we have a line stop where we can't run our production because our raw material is not being there, and we've got 14 people in production not doing anything, like we feel that pain. So what that means is when we're supplying to our customers on the metal side, we make sure as much as possible we're on time, because we know how painful that can be if we're late. And I don't think a lot of steel metals companies have that sort of insight to that extent
No.
that we have.
Getting those guys on, as like I say, if we're rolling back into the percentages where you're giving away part of your business to someone who's coming in, like, again, for advice for people, it's obviously working well for you currently, you're doing the growth and everything like that, but was there any trepidation? Were you worried about it? Like, because I'm guessing your dad's still a little bit involved in the business or something like that. So, it's like, look, I can imagine him like, look, son,
Yeah, this is a big,
calm down.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a
Like,
bit,
are you sure?
yeah.
Like, we're giving away, this is making this, we've got a cushy life, so it's, what's that
Yeah.
conversation like?
So there was a lot of trepidation. You're right. So my dad is still in the business, so he's kind of semi-retired at the minute. But he really supported us when we were starting this, because of course, yeah, he started his business in '96, so it's kind of his baby. So for him to sell shares or agree to sell shares in that business was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he's fully supportive of everything that we're doing, and yeah, it's obviously taking on essentially, another shareholder into the business who's going to own a decent chunk of your business is a big deal, because they will have a say in how that business is run, whether director or not. The fact that they're a shareholder, they're going to have some input. Now, fortunately for us, we've got a really good relationship with our investor, and he trusts our judgment, he trusts what we're doing. Whether with that, if our business was not in a great position, whether he'd still have that relationship, I don't know. But we've had a really positive. I've definitely heard a lot of horror stories where people have taken money and the VC very, very quickly takes control or forces you to make decisions that you don't want to make. That's not right for what you've created.
Or puts people in that you don't want.
Yeah, positions someone on your board that knows nothing about your industry but's kind of calling the shots. Yeah, there's a lot. So you have to really look at the term sheet that you get.
Yeah.
When you get an offer of investment, you need to really have a really close think about, is this right for us? Because and the devil's going to be in the detail. Right in the detail, you need to have the right legal advice in order to make the right decisions.
Yeah. Did you almost like reference check this person as well? Did you go and do that bit of due diligence? Because, like you were saying about recruiting earlier,
Yeah.
we're going to bring production ops in, we're going to make them do 2 interviews. Is this person, are you still having that, right, I need to interview you in a way?
Yeah, I mean, he was a mentor for me for about a year prior. So for then, lots of chats just like this. We go and sit and have a drink and talk through stuff. And through those chats, you get a really good feel for someone. Also, his company that he created was quite renowned for being a really good employer. Really, really, it was a family business, being very successful, but still retaining those family vibes. Very similar to what we want to create here. So it was quite a nice match. Fortunately, I've had a very good experience of it, but I know people, particularly as part of like the investment, I say consortium that Innovate UK put together, that maybe haven't had a great experience. And I think it's come down to relationships. And I think it's come down to the devil in the detail of those term sheets. And if you've not got that right legal advice, which is expensive, again, when you're getting investment, if you think about the cost to get investment. So during COVID, it was fortunate that, I all of a sudden I didn't need to travel anymore. I was just in the office or at home and could focus on it. And I knew that the amount of work coming in, because business has slowed down a little bit during COVID, was sufficient for one person to handle. Like the cost to getting investments, putting that plan together, to go and do all the research in the market, to get the legal advice that you need to pay for prior to the deal getting done, is expensive. Like, and where does that money come from? I was fortunate that I had a trading business that could support those costs. But if you've not got that, it's very difficult to just do it. So I have a lot of respect for someone who's just created something and raised investment when they didn't have that support, because it's very, very, very difficult.
I think that's the real thing. It's like, if you don't have some cash to start with, if you are, they could call it bootstrapping it, just make money, you're just hustling the whole way. I think you can make really poor, or it's typical that people can make very poor decisions. And there's people out there as well that are like, they're not necessarily the most reputable, they're looking for people with an idea who can get funding, and sometimes it can be for the wrong reason. So, I do think that was obviously in your favour, and that's why I was just so keen to understand losing a bit to gain a bit, and how that
and how it feels.
and how that it sounds
Yeah.
like obviously you just had a very
and
good transition.
I mean,
into it.
and you are giving away a piece of your business, which it's difficult to come to terms with it at times because you feel like it's yours, that your thing. But the way to look at it is you're selling shares in your company. That's what you're doing. You're selling you're selling it, and you're giving an investor a product, which is shares of your company. And you need to, the same way that you guys deliver recruitment, I have to deliver a business plan to our investor. So I'm accountable to that person. So there's a bit of pressure there, when someone hands you a check and says, by the way, this is on you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the check is more than most people have in their bank ever. This is on you, and I'm trusting you on this. It feels a lot of pressure. So we, right, certainly in the early, we're very careful on what we, as a company, and what we spend. It's not a cultural part of our cultural pillars, but it's just something that we instill in everybody is, we spend what we need when we need it, and it's appropriate because, one of the things that you kind of let control of a little bit as you get bigger is your role changes. So before, where I was doing everything, sales right the way through to delivery documentation, I don't do that part now. So I've had to release control to our team to do it. And part of that is purchasing. Our business, we're a manufacturing company. I can't authorize every single spend that goes on our business, because we're buying nuts and bolts and, for 10 quid, right? I'd just be authorizing stuff all day. So you have to give people the autonomy to do it, but you also have to trust that they're buying the right stuff and they're not spending cash willy-nilly. And that's quite difficult to get your head around sometimes, because obviously you're coming from a business where everything's tightly controlled and you know exactly what's being spent because it's you that's spending it. And then all of a sudden handing that autonomy over to a team, but then you put in place other control measures to make sure, okay, so you set budgets, sounds really obvious stuff, right? But it's only stuff that you kind of learn as you
because you go along,
as you're
don't you?
going
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
it. We've definitely changed in the last 12 months from like what I'd say is more of a certainly on the manufacturing side, from R&D into now steady state production, because we've got 2 major contracts now which are in steady state. So we've had to go from learning that we're in R&D and R&D things go wrong. Well, in steady state, you have to hit delivery date. That's the date, and our customers don't care if we've had an issue. They want the product on there. It's a bit of a thankless task, really, isn't it? But we've had to get into that mindset very quickly. So our company has evolved over the last 4 or 5 years through different phases, from certainly being like, I'm going to say, a startup. During our team meetings, there's and I think I showed it to you. They call it the startup curve, and it follows happiness with time. And basically it shows like in a startup, like at the start, like everyone's like on cloud 9, because all of a sudden you just raised your money. Everything's new and exciting. There's not really a load of pressure at that point. You're just starting. You're just learning out. So yeah, sales we'll worry about next year, right? And then all of a sudden you come right back down to earth where you're like, shit, like this is hard, right? This is not as easy as what we thought it is. And then you kind of go through these big ups and downs, and we've had it over the last 5 years, like these super ups where maybe we've won a new customer or got a new contracts or won a grant that's going to propel us to the next point, to like these real lows where we had quality issues or we get a break-in, like we had a horrendous break-in a few years ago. We had security on site 24 hours. It was horrendous. That bring us right the way back. So we go through these like big ups and downs that maybe you don't feel in a big organization, because like you said before, like if you're like market leader and you kind of you're chasing maybe just like the next couple of percent
Yeah.
sales, well, things are probably pretty stable. And whereas in a startup, it's like every week something changes, and we say to people when they apply for roles at our place is like, you need to be ready for this, because you are going to feel it. A bit like what you mentioned before about for recruitment, like if you had a bad week, that can be what it takes for someone to go and apply for another job.
Yeah.
Like we'll preempt it with people and say, like, you are gonna have weeks where it feels shit, like, and everyone feels shit, but equally well, it'll only be 7 days before we're back up and everything's super again. And maybe that's what we do. Well, you don't get in those big solar companies, but we felt it for sure.
Thank you for sticking around till the end of the podcast. To help this channel grow, if you could like it, share it with any of your colleagues or people who are in the metals or engineering or manufacturing sectors, that would be great. Also, you might feel like you're the perfect guest for our podcast to tell your story of your career, or maybe there's someone in your network who you think would be great for us to interview. If you want to get in contact with myself or Peter Comerford, that would be great. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Steelbuy, as well as Nero Pipeline. Thanks for watching.